26th of December 2022. Note 2. Social media addiction. Compulsion had always plagued computer-facilitated social networking. It was the original sin. Ian Bogost. Flames were dancing in our brand new stove as I watched them through a glass of wine, candles, music, a delicate smell of smoke. I was about to savor the liquid stillness of midnight. Suddenly, an urge to reach for my phone. The fire-filled wine glass would make such a good-looking reel. I stopped halfway through getting up, dropped back into the armchair, and I took a sip of my biodynamic champagne. I tried very hard not to judge myself for the complete inability to enjoy the moment. For God's sake, I'm celebrating an important personal occasion, and all I can think of was making a reel. Perhaps indulging in the popular pastime of glorifying the past, I thought back to 2008. I lived in my very first rented apartment, in a small town in Sichuan, China. When I wasn't at work, as a preschool English teacher, or sampling the local cuisine, I was most often home, thoroughly enjoying my first ever adult abode. I remember that my neck hurt from dancing to Shakira too much. I remember feeling great, nothing short of perfect happiness. Fast forward 14 years. It's a few minutes past midnight in the very first home I'm sharing with my partner in France. After a year of work, I finally put the finishing touches to our front room, the very room I'm sitting in. The occasion warranted a bottle of my favorite wine and a lavish dinner. Then Andy went to sleep and I stayed to enjoy the evening for a little bit longer. Yet it felt as if there was a sheet of perspex separating me from my contentment. So I reached for the phone, certain for a split second that making a reel would remove the barrier. Then, immediately realizing my mistake, I facepalmed internally. Broadcasting my perfect little moment to a random number of strangers on the internet was not what I needed. I had to remind myself that its value wasn't dependent on how many people saw it. I feel like in my case, the social media's promise of a voice and an audience fell on a particularly fertile soil. At 3, I used to bind paper into booklets and publish my scribbles. At 10, I used my grandma's portable tape recorder to make little broadcasts. In high school, I studied journalism and theatre, and then I tried my hand at freelance writing. Finally, I wrote a book. Getting myself and my thoughts out there has always been part of me. When I started using social media just over a decade ago, I wasn't told, bracket, should it come with warning, like a packet of cigarettes, close bracket, about the risks. Then, we were all warned, repeatedly reminded by pundits of various kinds that socials were eroding our mental health, disturbing sleep patterns, ruining relationships, etc. Still, all of that wasn't enough for me to grasp the insidiousness of Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and whatever else we're meant to be on. Platforms designed to be as addictive as slot machines, or more recently, medication, yet so much more dangerous because they are at our fingertips, 24/7. With absolutely terrifying stats on global use patterns. 2 hours and 29 minutes is the average daily social media time? What? I do wonder if it's perhaps only me, or in any case, some kind of a minority that is so negatively affected that we can't even enjoy a glass of expensive as fuck, really delicious wine without splitting our attention. Wouldn't all these people, 2 billion on Instagram, realize the side effects and just quit? Yet, in 1954, 45% of American citizens were cigarette smokers, and no, they did not just quit. Today, there are 1.3 billion tobacco addicts. Insta is still in the lead. And they are also not all about to quit. But the parallels are inconspicuous. An unhealthy product puddled to the naive consumer. The realization that, in my addiction to social media, I am David and the never-ending content feed is the Goliath, has a surprising effect. It emboldens me and makes the challenge appealing, realizing that every second of scrolling, or more often in my case every post that I create and every sentence I share, equals more money flowing directly into Silicon Valley, makes it that much easier to put down the goddamn phone and actually force myself to do something productive, or actually have a good time. However, there's another caveat, and quite a big one. Social media actually also works for me. Without it, I would be unlikely to get the Women's Bouldering Festival off the ground, and it would certainly have taken me a lot longer to get a book deal. When I met my first climbing coach, we bartered my social media marketing skills for her coaching. It's as if apart from giving you cancer, cigarettes could also, not very likely but possibly, make all of your dreams come true. Quitting has never been easy, but how many would actually do it if that were the case? So for now it's about managing my addiction, taking what I need and giving back as little as possible. Yes, it sounds mean, but there are plenty better causes I'd rather give back to than Mark Zuckerberg. Yesterday and today I forced myself not to pick up my phone even once, a pledge which resulted in 2 days of frantic cleaning and Andy repeatedly asking me if I was okay. Tomorrow I'll spend a couple of hours. Yes, this is where I'm ending this entry. Some years ago I read a monthly column by a poet who always cut his articles mid-sentence. I thought it was very nonchalant and stylish, but now I know it was to save himself the agony of writing a closing paragraph. Since my weekly journals are meant to be light build-up to the monthly essays, I'll also do myself the courtesy of ending mid-sentence. I deserve it. After all, I'm not only fighting a battle against the Goliath, but I'm trying to make the Goliath walk on a leash. I know. And follow me on Instagram, maybe?